All right, my second passenger is Andy Ellis, CSO at Akamai, and thanks for joining me, Andy.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate this, and I love San Francisco and a trolley car ride.
All right, no, it's a lot of fun, and for your first question, you're actually going to be presenting at RSA. You have a presentation that's called "Why Humans Are Awesome at Risk Management Presentation." That's your presentation, why humans are awesome at risk management. So explain what that means a little bit. What are you going to be talking about?
Sure. So there's this trope in information security that humans are horrible at risk management. You know, we like to make fun of them, say humans are the weakest link. When the reality is humans are really good at risk management, we just often don't understand why they're operating the way they are. So it's really about the comprehensibility of the actions they're taking. Usually when we see a human doing something dangerous, it's because the system that they're working in is extremely dangerous and they've just picked the best path.
Got it. Now, I want to talk to you about a couple of threats that are sort of in your bailiwick, and I'll ask you about that. The first one is, there's been a spate of very high-profile credential stuffing attacks lately. Dunkin' Donuts was one example recently. Just, give me some of your thoughts on that and maybe why we're seeing a spike all of a sudden in that.
So credential stuffing actually sort of comes back to what my talk's about. Right? We make fun of people because they reuse passwords from one website to another. But why do they reuse passwords? Because they have to. Right? They have to have this complicated password, and they're not going to want to remember them in lots of places. And we've told them not to write them down, which is probably the worst advice we've ever given humans, is not to write down their passwords, because instead they reuse them. Right. So what adversaries have figured out is, once there's a compromise, go try to reuse those passwords and those usernames somewhere else. When it works, they get access to your account. Maybe that lets them have access to your rewards points. They can buy a gift card with it. Maybe it gives them access to a financial account. Maybe they can just buy stuff with it. Lots of different reasons and ways they're going to monetize it, but what we're starting to see is sort of similar to what we saw in the DDoS world, which is no longer this pure, perfect vertical integration where the adversaries had to do every step themselves. You could just buy credentials or buy accounts and monetize it up the chain. So it's this fascinating market economy we're seeing that's causing this ballooning of attacks.
All right, and sorry for bumping into, this is worse than the New York subway.
No problem.
So apologies. But let's talk about a completely different threat. Let's talk about the use of IoT botnets and the abuse of a lot of insecure wireless devices that are out there, or IoT devices out there, for the purpose of launching things like DDoS attacks, threats like Mirai and Satori and things like that.
Yeah. So in fact, tomorrow afternoon, Elliot Peterson's going to be talking a little about this, FBI agent who worked with us on one of the takedowns. And so again, with the market movement here, we're starting to see bot herds who all that they're going to do is compromise IoT devices and sell access to them. So it's a fascinating and unfortunate development. And the real challenge here is that IoT are being developed as if they're disposable consumer devices, but then they're living far, far longer than anyone would expect. So without a good sort of software development life cycle and support chain behind them, we're sort of put in a position where users who deploy them or companies who deploy them have no idea what's going to happen with them, and they might stick around for 15 or 20 years rather than the 6 to 9 months that we might think of for a disposable device.
All right, now for your final question, originally I was going to ask you to maybe give me a really crazy example of a poor cyber risk management, and you kind of want to flip that on its head and say, sometimes the things that people freak out about in terms of, oh, this is a terrible example of risk management, isn't really as bad as it sounds. So explain what you meant by that.
So my favorite one, and since I'm wearing some sports paraphernalia I'll use from that world, is every so often you'll see somebody inside a press box take a picture, and in the background there's like, here's the Wi-Fi network and the password. And everybody freaks out about that. They're like, oh my God, what a horrible security practice. The reality is, like, you put that up there because you have transient people coming through your location. You put up the username and password because it doesn't give you access to anything other than the internet. And they're just trying to segregate the press box from everybody in the stadium so that the press can actually live tweet the game or get out their reports quickly. So it's a reasonable trade-off to a really challenging problem, which is distributed password management with a lot of sort of guests showing up, and you don't want to make it hard for them to do their job. So I think we often get really outraged and like to make fun of people for doing security practices that don't really expose them to more risk and are certainly sensible from their point of view.
All right, thanks a lot, Andy. Appreciate it. And that sports jacket that he's wearing is a New England Patriots.
6-time Super Bowl champion.
Yeah, Jets, Jets is all I have to say about that. Let's move on to our next guest and kick him off the trolley.
Thank you.